Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have another video for the Not Too Shabby shop. I am doing a Lift the Flap card that is a shaker featuring the Winter Friends and Winter Sentiment stamp sets and some no-line coloring. So for my no-line coloring, I stamped my bunny from Winter Friends with some antique linen distress ink, and then I'm going to go over this with my W gray markers to create like the fur of the bunny. And I'm starting with my lightest, but realized probably it's best just to start with my darkest, go in with my medium, and then my lightest tone. So I have W4, W2, and W0 for the grays for my bunny's fur. And I am trying to do a little like varied light and dark areas around the bunny's face. And I know like right here, the bunny looks more like a donkey. But we'll fix that. We'll fix it. And that's the thing about no line coloring. Sometimes when you first start out, it looks really wonky. And my tip is just to keep going. Sometimes mine still look wonky in the end and I try again. But for the most part, when doing no line coloring, if I just keep going, you can always add in more shadowing and usually come out with something good. It is easier than it seems. Did you color with Crayolas when you were little? I loved that. So when I colored with my crayons in my color books, I would outline my image with a dark color and then color it in with a lighter color. And this kind of reminds me of that, except the line gets covered up by your darkest color. So now I am going back in with my white gel pen and adding highlights, and you can see I added a little pink nose to the bunny and a line right under that all the way down for the mouth, and that really helped transform it into a bunny and no longer looks like a donkey. To finish off the eyes, I just brought in a pencil. I needed it to be darker but didn't want to use black, and I drew in the eyelid and the eyelashes, and man, it made all the difference. So now I'm going to cut this out, and here you can see that I always turn the paper with my left hand while cutting with my right, and that is my tip for fussy cutting. And here is my cute little bunny. I am so pleased with how it turned out. It's adorable. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the fox. This one is one of those images that took a little bit longer for me to really like it. I was not sure, but I just had to change a few things up as I went. And then, like I said, I kept going and I really like how it turned out. So the darkest color that I used here is E15. And that's the part that here in a second, I realize it's just not dark enough. I need more of a contrast between my dark and my light for the way I like my no line coloring to look, or for the look I was going for today on these images. So right about here, I ran through my markers, I tested a few out, and decided to go with E19, excuse me, for my darkest color. And you can see this is really high contrast now, but I'm going to blend that out with my E15, which was formerly my darkest color, now my mid-tone, and I will just really like the contrast that I get here because there's a lot of areas that are the same color that touch with this fox. Like his tail touches his body, his front legs touch his body. So I needed something that was going to help them stand out from each other a little bit better. All right, so now on to his hat and scarf. I'm using YG17, YG13, and YG11, just having his hat be two different tones of those green colors. And you know, when you're doing no line coloring, sometimes it's hard to have just white areas, so you really want to use some grays. So I'm using W4, W2, and W0 for my gray areas, and I did have to go over those a few times to get the look that I wanted, and in the end I was happy I stuck with him because I really like how it turned out. And I also think the gel pen really brought this to life, and it gave it a little bit more of a wintry look for my snowy scene that I am about to create. So I will also cut him out, and you can see up close how cute this little fox turned out. I'm very happy with both of my no line coloring images. So for my background, I'm using this die set from Whimsy Stamps, and it is the Slimline Scallop Peekaboo die. You can use these pieces together or separately. So I'm going to use them together on this oatmeal cookie cardstock, and you can see what that looks like. Then I'm going to use just the scalloped edge for my background and cut that from white. And then I'm going to take this Great Outdoors die set from Trinity Stamps because it has this hill, and I'm going to die cut a hill from a partially scalloped piece. And then I will do some ink blending to create my background. So this is Salty Ocean. I want to do a really light hand with this, and I really, because it's going to be a sky, I don't care that I have lighter areas and darker areas. If I wanted it to be solid blue, I would use colored cardstock, right? I like that, where there's lighter areas and darker areas. And then just a dusting of the mowed lawn across the top of the hill for a hint of green, because I am going to have this be like a snowy scene. And to create my snow, I have some white acrylic paint that I've watered down, and I'm going to splatter this. And I just have to say, the satisfaction of splattering this is much like putting powdered sugar all over a cake, just sprinkling it on. Like, I couldn't stop. It was so much fun splattering this. I didn't even mind the mess. Like, it was beautiful on the glass mat too. So pretty. So I will clean that off. I just right away sprayed my glass mat with water, wiped it clean with a rag, and it was totally fine. And then I'm going to stamp some trees. This is frayed leaf ink from Altenew, and I will stamp 4 of those and cut them out for my background. Now you notice these trees you stamp with a colored ink. They're not a line image that you stamp and color in. So these are going to go great with my no line colored images. Next, I'm going to create the outside of my card. I have the Merry Christmas Senti-Mini die set and stamp set from Trinity Stamps. You can see I already die cut the banner, and now I'm going to stamp on it because I like to have some suspense for you in my videos. So therefore, I should pre-die cut and then stamp. But if this is the kind of suspense that you do not enjoy, I would stamp it and then cut it out. All right, now I'm going to stamp the outside with those same trees from the Winter Sentiment stamp set with my hazelnut ink. This color, I don't know why, but I love it. It is caramely. Yeah, that's what it is. So I'll stamp 4 of those on each flap there, and then these little snowflakes are also from that Winter Sentiment set. I'm going to arrange those on my block and stamp them with white just to have a little something subtle in the background of this. I wanted the outside to be just as cool as the inside. It's kind of like 2 cards in one when you're making this. So I'm going to fold those flaps back so I know where that crease line is, and that's going to help me place my little banners. I'm going to snip off just the very edge of this pink banner so I can line it up with that crease line. So it says, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So I used my fine tip applicator on my Barely Art glue, and we'll use that to stick down my Merry. Now, teeny tiny die cuts like this, you really like to have a precision tip glue, and then I like to use a paper towel. That way I can pick up any glue that might have squished out, and I'm not going to have any sticky gluey residue left over because the paper towel has picked that up for me, and then I don't get as much glue on my fingers, which I really appreciate. So I did the same thing on the other side, and you can see I just alternated the colors. So I have pink and green on both sides, but in different ways. Now I added glue to the back of this. You can see in a outline and then down the center. I'm going to stick a window sheet to that and let it dry. While it does, let's work on the inside of the card. So I'm attaching my hill to my sky piece, and those are all nice and dry from that splattering. And then I'm going to add in my trees and my characters. So I'm just using that die as a reference so that I'm going to get my things inside the frame where I want them to be. They're not going to be too cut off or under that centerpiece. I've got the bunny centered in there and whatnot because I already glued on my window sheet to my card front. So using the die was the easiest option here. So we'll get all those squared away, and I'm really making sure I have everything where I want it before I press down on that glue. But when you are putting glued down elements inside of a shaker card, you really want to make sure you have plenty of glue all the way to the edge so your little sequins don't like tuck under your stamped images and get stuck there. And that's why I don't really raise images up on foam squares when they're inside of a shaker. So now I stamped some snowflakes in this Sea Breeze ink, and I'm die cutting those out, or fussy cutting, sorry, in a bit of like an octagon shape, and that just made it the easiest way to cut them out. And then I'm going to glue those in and around my scene so that it adds to the snowy feel. And I think it looked great, but even more dimension, I took the tiny dot stamp and stamped that randomly across the background with that Sea Breeze ink again, and it just adds to the dimensional look of that snow in the background. All right, so now I added some foam tape around my window panel and some anti-static powder, and that is going to hold in and help my shaker elements move. These shaker elements are yummy. They're the Charleston shaker elements from Catherine Pooler, but I got them as a free gift with an order from the Not Too Shabby shop, and they are the perfect thing for the shaker card. Actually, it is the colors that inspired today's card, which actually I have been using this kind of color combination a lot lately for my Christmas cards, kind of pink and green and blue and the craft color. I did it in a recent video I just did with a gingerbread house. I'm loving this color combination. So there you can see it all stuck together. Look how cute the scene is. You open those little doors and yeah, it's a surprise. I love it. I love this scalloped edge on this die cut too. I don't know why, but scallops make me happy. They just make me happy. So I've glued that down to a card base that measures 8 3/4 by 7.5 so that I could have a little white border all the way around. Otherwise, you could mount this on an 8.5 by 3.5 card base. All right, I also stamped the inside for just a little interest there to finish off the card, and I think that it turned out super cute. I don't know if you noticed, but I stamped the little dot on each of the scallops with that white craft ink, and it just made it. That was the thing it needed to finish off the card. It looks very gingerbready, and I am so happy with this. I love that scallop die, and I had so much fun with the no line coloring on these images. Aren't they darling? By the way, you can get both of these stamp sets for free from the Not Too Shabby shop with an order. $60 gets you the Winter Sentiment stamp set, and a $100 purchase will get you both. So I will leave a link to the Not Too Shabby shop and those stamp sets if you prefer to buy them. And I will see you all again very soon with more stamping videos. Happy stamping. Bye.